With a population of 3 million inhabitants, Montreal is Canada's second most important city and is the world's second largest French-speaking city. Built on an island that carries the same name and situated in the middle of the St. Lawrence River, 1,000 miles away from the sea, Montreal is one of the world's innermost inland seaports. Linguistically, 69% of the city's population speaks French, 15% English, and 16% another tongue. Montreal can therefore boast being not only a French and bilingual city, but a place that is truly cosmopolitan and where European and North American cultures blend. The street where we are now is Montreal's main avenue and is called St. Lawrence Street. This is where East and West Montreal meet. Traditionally, the East End has always been identified as the French sector of the city, while the West End and St. Lawrence Streets, members of all the ethnic communities can be found living together in harmony, whether in the West End or East End. Montreal is really a city of neighborhoods, or if one prefers, of towns, each different, each possessing its own unique atmosphere, style, and rhythm. French neighborhoods are easily distinguishable because most of the houses have outside staircases. People used to build houses this way to avoid hiring expensive craftsmen. The houses were therefore cheaper to construct and had more space inside. Today, these outdoor staircases and balconies allow people to socialize and are instrumental in creating a sense of communal togetherness. One of the main focal points of the East End is Saint-Denis Street, home of Montreal's prestigious International Jazz Festival, and the place where most French Montrealers go to have a beer or to meet friends. The main artery of the Latin Quarter, the street's many bars, boutiques, restaurants, and cafes attract a young and vivacious crowd of people. The English-speaking West End is harder to define, mainly because of the variety of different lifestyles and architectures that coexist in its boundaries. However, to those who know the city, the word West End conjures up images of the stately upper-class townhouses of Westmount, or what was formerly known as the Golden Square Mile. Back in the 19th century, most of the country's great industrialists and fur traders lived in these elegant homes. It is said that at one time, the 25,000 inhabitants of this part of town owned more than 70% of all of Canada's wealth. For French-speaking Montrealers, however, West End means downtown, with its towering skyscrapers, bustling city life, restaurants, bars, big department stores, and St. Catherine Street. The true heart of the city, where boutiques feature the latest styles in clothing by Canadian, American, French, and Italian designers. With nearly 2,500 shops and businesses crammed along a 2.5-mile stretch, St. Catherine Street never goes to sleep. It is alive with action 7 days a week and around the clock. Over the last few years, St. Catherine Street stores have been modernized to regain the clientele that had been lost to the underground network of boutiques, which offers better protection against the rigors of the Canadian climate. Place Bonaventure, with Complexe des Jardins, Place des Arts, and Place Ville-Marie, make up what is called the underground city. Many of Montreal's downtown buildings are linked by a network of corridors that protect pedestrians from bad weather and traffic. This network has been expanded over the years and presently is over 8 miles long. It is the longest underground system of its kind in the world. Built in the early 60s, Place Ville-Marie was the first link in the underground network. Around the same time, the city of Montreal was planning the construction of its subway system. The subway, Montrealers call it métro, was completed in 1966, and several of its stations were linked to the underground city, which then substantially increased in size and became easier to reach. Today, several buildings across the city give direct internal access to a metro station. The Université de Montréal, the Université du Québec à Montréal, the Olympic Stadium, and several downtown office towers all allow you to walk directly into a metro station without going outdoors. Though nobody actually lives underground, those who live in an apartment tower that is linked to a subway station can actually go to work, eat out, catch a movie, go to a library, or shop in one of the 1,200 underground-linked boutiques without having to wear heavy clothes, even while the temperature outdoors drops to 0 Fahrenheit. Nobody knows where Montreal's underground expansion will stop. However, Montreal urban planners, with the help of private sector builders, intend to link different downtown complexes through a network of indoor walkways so that it won't be necessary to take the metro to go from one place to another. Of the 400,000 commuters that flock downtown daily, 200,000 use the corridors of the underground city. Place Ville-Marie, where it all started, is without a doubt the building that is most representative of Montreal. At night, as its rotating beacon flashes through the night, all are reminded of this building's important contribution to the modern development of the city. Place Ville-Marie's name is also evocative. Ville-Marie was the name given to Montreal on May 17, 1642, the day the colony was founded. It is here, in the old quarters of the city, that the first French settlers, headed by Paul de Chaumédy, Sieur de Maisonneuve, built their first encampment. Several major fires have since devastated the city, and today nothing subsists of the first settlement except for a few memorial plaques that remind us of the courage of the men and women who founded Ville-Marie and opened up the hinterland. The Saint-Sulpice Seminary near Notre-Dame Church is the oldest standing building in Montreal. Built of stone, it dates back to the year 1685 and is still today the property of the Messieurs de Saint-Sulpice congregation. In 1962, City Hall created the Vigier Commission, so named after Montreal's first mayor, to protect the old city and stop the increasing deterioration and demolition of its historical buildings. 95 acres of Old Montreal were subsequently declared historical landmarks by the Quebec government. And since then, any plans to modify or tear down a building must be approved by the Commission of Historical Monuments. The city has since restored Old Montreal to its 19th century appearance. Though there are still a few 17th century and 18th century buildings standing, it is the 19th century and the Victorian era that have left the most lasting imprint on Old Montreal. Today, the old city has been revitalized and bustles with activity. New restaurants, boutiques, and offices can be seen everywhere, and people have come back to live in the luxurious studios, lofts, condos, and houses that have been created in the area. Furthermore, a few blocks away from City Hall, some of Montreal's municipal services have been installed in several of the old historic buildings, thus giving them new life. The main focus of attraction for most visitors of Old Montreal has to be Notre-Dame Church, who some say is easily the most beautiful church in North America. This architectural work of art is the masterpiece of two great men, James O'Donnell and Victor Bourgeot. O'Donnell conceived and overseered the construction of the structure between 1823 and 1829. Born an Irish Protestant, he converted to Catholicism and died before the church was finished. Subsequently, two towers, one on the east and one on the west side of the facade, named Perseverance and Temperance, were added respectively in 1841 and in 1843. Notre-Dame was the first church in Quebec to be built in the Gothic style, a style which was to have a dominant influence on the construction of religious structures over the next 75 years in French Canada. Inside the basilica, the visitor is at once impressed by the splendor and majesty of the interior space. The redecorating of Notre-Dame was undertaken in the 1870s by Victor Bourgeot. A French-Canadian with little education, Bourgeot first worked as a sculptor. Then, later on, he became a building contractor and was to be one of the most prolific builders of his time. He is also responsible for erecting three of Montreal's landmarks: the Hôtel Dieu Hospital, the Order of Grey Nuns Convent, and the Catholic Cathedral of Marie-Reine du Monde. The spiral staircase leading up to the basilica's pulpit is the first recorded work by Bourgeot. The two sculptures below are the work of another Canadian artist, Philippe Hébert, who also produced the statue of the founder of Montreal, Paul de Chaumédy, Sieur de Maisonneuve, which stands outside the church in the center of Place d'Armes. Victor Bourgeot also designed and built the main altar, in which are incorporated sculptures by the French artist Bourrichet. The central theme of these works is the sacrifice of Jesus Christ as it was foretold in the Old Testament. In the first niche, beside the crucifixion, we see Isaac's sacrifice. In the niche above, a priest of Aaron's family offers up an unblemished lamb. This scene is also called the perpetual sacrifice. On the other side, to the left, two scenes show Eucharist sacrifices. In the first, Melchizedek, high priest and king of Salem, offers up a sacrifice of bread and wine. And in the other, above, Moses stands before the Ark of the Covenant. The theme of these sacrifices is then transposed and repeated in episodes of the life of the Lord Jesus, notably in the crucifixion above the tabernacle and in the Last Supper below the altar. Many other beautiful works of art in Notre-Dame Church are worthy of mention. For instance, the stained glass windows that show the religious history of Montreal. The rear of the church is dominated by a Casavant symphonic organ made up of more than 6,800 pipes. With the acoustics of a concert hall, the basilica is the frequent host of symphonic orchestras, opera singers, and televised musical presentations. The last stop in the tour of Notre-Dame Church is the Sacré-Cœur Chapel. Built between 1888 and 1891, the chapel was almost totally destroyed by arson in 1978. The restoration, lasting more than 4 years, has given back to the chapel much of its former magnificence. However, the ceiling, the organ, and the reredos have been restored in a more modern style. The reredos is the work of Charles Daudelin and symbolizes the different stages of life, each art representing a different phase of man's journey from birth to death. Above the reredos, we can see the Holy Trinity in heaven. The Olympic Stadium is another site that attracts many visitors to Montreal. It was built by the French architect Roger Taillibert to host the 1976 Olympic Games and can accommodate 60,000 fans during sporting events and upwards of 72,000 during rock or classical concerts. The Big O, as it is called, is linked to a subway station by an interior passageway. Baseball fans whose apartment building is also linked to a station can go directly to the games without ever walking outdoors. The most astonishing part of the Taillibert concept has to be the stadium's retractable roof that is supported by a 566-foot tower, said to be the world's tallest leaning structure. It is as high as a 50-story building and has a 45-degree pitch. Every day, many tourists use the elevator to reach the tower's observatory, the committee rules forbade staging the track and field events in a covered stadium. To resolve the problem, the French architect had the idea of installing a retractable roof. Unfortunately, financial problems prevented the tower from being ready in time for the 1976 Games. The tower was finally finished and the Kevlar roof installed in 1987. The building east of the stadium is the Vélodrome, It was built also for the Montreal Olympic Games and forms with the stadium an urban scheme called Olympic Park. The Vélodrome has two noteworthy features: a huge domed roof built in the shape of a racing helmet, and giant skylights that allows more than 70% of outdoor daylight to reach the track below. Near Olympic Park stands the Botanical Gardens, which attract 1,500,000 visitors every year. More than 26,000 different species of plants are grown here annually, and the gardens are the home of the largest collection of bonsai trees outside Asia. The Montreal Botanical Gardens are the third largest horticultural exhibit in the world. Besides being a fine tourist attraction, they also serve as a learning center where Montrealers can come and study plant life and gardening. A tour of Montreal would not be complete without a visit to St-Joseph Oratory. The construction of this basilica, situated on the top of Mount Royal, is due to the persistent determination of Brother André, a small, humble man, blessed with a gift for miracles. The oratory is the largest shrine in the world dedicated to the worship of Saint Joseph, the patron saint of Canada. Hanging on the walls between the pillars of the church are the canes, crutches, and other mementos of suffering left by many grateful pilgrims. Even today, thousands of people from all over the world claim each year to have been healed or to have received blessings through the intercession of Saint Joseph. In this tomb lies the remains of Brother André, who died January 6, 1937, at the age of 91. St-Joseph Oratory is erected on the side of Mount. In winter, Montrealers climb the mountain to do some cross-country skiing, to skate, or to go sliding. In summer, it is an ideal spot for a picnic or for a stroll along a quiet nature path. Jacques Cartier gave the mountain its name in 1535. Some historians believe that the name of the city, Montreal, was derived from the old French word Montréal, which means Royal Mountain. Even today, the splendid view that can be had from the mountain's observatories make us want to cry out like Monsieur Cartier, "Ah, wat a truly royal mountain!"